This is the story of an ordinary man who was granted a great power to become a savior in a different world. His name is Yuji. He is always with his slimes and a proud wolf wherever he went. One day Yuji woke up in the forest and was confused because his last memory was he fell asleep in the office where he worked. He discovered he has abilities, and when he touched a slime he was able to immediately tame the creature. This slime took him to a house in the distance. When they entered the house, they saw many books. When he opened the book, Grimoire of Divine Destruction, he acquired the magic of fire, water, earth and wind. He also saw many slimes who wanted to be tamed by him, and he quickly tamed all of them. The slimes became useful to him because he became more powerful from the books that these slimes read, and these added powers made him a sage. He was even surprised when the slimes spoke and repeatedly called his name. One day when he returned to their guild, the guild's receptionist, Lily, thought that Yuji had given up on his mission. But Yuji told her that he had completed the mission. He ordered the slime, Sura, to spit out the dryad flowers he acquired from his mission. Lily and the adventurers were surprised by what they saw. So she immediately called the guild master, Aegis. While Yuji and Aegis were talking, the adventurer Rezin suddenly came and informed Aegis about the smoke they saw in the forest. They also heard that there was an army of monsters coming. Yuji immediately spoke to the slimes to find out which direction the monsters were going. Based on the description of the slimes, he found out that the path taken by the monsters was heading to the town of Faston where they were located. Aegis immediately gathered the adventurers and told them to leave the town. But most of them refused to leave because they can't leave the people of Faston to save themselves. Yuji volunteered that he will use the dragon bone to create dragon's flame and destroy the monsters that are coming. Aegis hesitated at first, but because of what the adventurer Gale said, they also agreed to Yuji's plan. To give Yuji enough time in his preparations, the adventurers are outside the town to stop the monsters. Dryad and other slimes saw a man holding a magic stone in the forest. Yuji has a hunch that the monsters attacking the town come from the stone spell. With the help of the slimes, they caught the man, and Yuji quickly dispelled the magic stone that the man was carrying. Yuji planned to order the slimes to bring this man to them, but the man immediately killed himself. Because the adventurers are having a hard time stopping the monsters, Yuji orders other slimes to help the adventurers. Lily was amazed as she watched Yuji casting the spells. Yuji ordered Lily to tell Aegis to let the adventurers get inside the town. When the other adventurers entered the town's gate, Gale and Rezin are still outside fighting the big monster. Then suddenly the proud wolf helped kill the monster and brought Gale and Rezin to the town. Yuji had created a barrier to surround the entire town and used his attack, Hellfire of Demise. Because there were still monsters left, Yuji used this attack again even though he was already weak. After saving the town from the monsters, he lost consciousness. He woke up in a guild room and saw Lilias there. He saw that the entire guild was celebrating his victory and saving their town. When Lily left, Yuji remembered his past life. But when Lily returned to the room, Yuji was no longer there. Yuji decided to leave the town. Lily informs Aegis of Yuji's departure. She also sees the thing on the table that Aegis recovered from the forest. According to Aegis, it is possible that this is the work of the cult that they heard a long time. Yuji reached the town of Kilia and registered himself as an adventurer in a guild of the town. At first, the receptionist here hesitated to register him because he was just a tamer, but when he saw that he had enemy tracking ability, he was then accepted. While he was looking at requests, 3 adventurers spoke to him. They introduced themselves as Rhodus, Tina and Lisa. They formed a group for an investigation and asked Yuji to join them because they need his tracking ability. Rhodus belittled Yuji for being a tamer, but Tina and Lisa told him that Rhodus was even more suspicious because everyone he had been with in the missions suddenly disappeared. After discussing the mission, they immediately left. Their mission is to find the hiding place of the Earth Dragon, and Yuji's job is to find out if there are enemies nearby. With the help of the slimes and the proud wolf, Yuji found out that there were 5 monster wolves ahead, so he immediately warned the others. When they encountered the monsters, Rhodus killed them all to show off. The slimes said that they can actually kill the monsters, but according to Yuji, it is better for them to know how strong are his colleagues. The night came. Rhodus decided the order of the guard to give each other time to rest. When Yuji woke up, the slimes informed that Rhodes had left in the middle of his vigil. Yuji has a bad feeling and the slimes also found out that Tina and Lisa are missing. While Rhodes was running, he noticed that someone was following him, so he stopped. Aside from the proud wolf and the slimes, Tina and Lisa were also following him because Tina was suspicious of Rhodes's order in the guard. When Rhodes got close to them, the slimes made a way to avoid being caught. Rhodes continued running so Lisa and Tina followed him. When Rhodes arrived at his destination, Yuji found out why Rhodes's former friends were missing. The girls decided to retreat but they touched the rope trap. This alerted Rhodes that someone uninvited was nearby. The slimes pretended to be monsters so Rhodes and others wouldn't chase the intruders and the slimes succeeded in their disguise. When Rhodes returned inside, Yuji ordered the slimes to surround the house and used the ranged frost to attack Rhodes and others. After the slimes got the bodies from the house, the girls recognized one of them. Gelios, who is a well-known bandit in the area. While Yuji was on guard, he remembered what he heard from Gelios. He said that there will be a calamity when Blue Moon comes, according to the Blue Moon of Salvation. He thought that maybe this Blue Moon of Salvation was behind the attack on the town of Faston and was curious about the kind of disaster that may occur according to Gelios. The next day they continued their search for the Earth Dragon's hideout. They noticed that the sky changed color and the slimes felt strange. This was also noticed by Rayard, the guildmaster in Kilia, and Stale, the priest. Stale mentioned about the blue moon and since Rayard didn't know about it, Stale showed him the Book of Legend. Suddenly something fell from the sky and the sky changed back to its color. It turned out to be the blue dragon and Yuji immediately felt its presence. After he informed Tina and Lisa, Tina made them follow to Delight Canyon because it was known to be a safe zone. Yuji sent the proud wolf and the slimes to kill the monsters ahead of them. When they passed the Delight Canyon, the Earth Dragon appeared. Tina and Lisa quickly hid and Yuji fought the Earth Dragon. Due to the hardness of its skin, it is not affected by weak attacks. Because Yuji knew that a strong gust of wind was coming, he positioned himself near it to shield himself from the dragon's attack. Yuji was able to get a chance to use the Hellfire of Decimation to attack the Earth Dragon causing its death and only bones remain from it. When they returned to the guild they showed the skull of the Earth Dragon and the frozen body of Gelios. They were given a big reward because of this. Rayard approached Yuji to include him in the meeting concerning the Blue Dragon and discussed possible ways to defeat it. Because Rayard knew that Yuji saw the Blue Dragon so he ordered him to describe it in a sketch. Stale told them the disaster coming according to the Book of Legends. It is said that after a blue dragon appeared, it will destroy the entire continent in just 3 days. According to the book, a messenger with the power resembling a god will defeat the blue dragon. Rayard suddenly remembered the ritual performed at the cathedral 30 years ago, the spirit summoning ceremony. And it would take effect exactly 30 years after a week ago. The sky darkened again and Yuji was informed by the slimes that were tracking the blue dragon that it grew even bigger. Rayard decided that the guild would fight the blue dragon as best they could. Tina and Lisa will also help in the operation to fight the blue dragon. Stale talked to Yuji and gave him a dagger he brought from the cathedral. At night the slimes informed him again that the blue dragon had grown much bigger. Yuji remembered what Rezin had told him about his fireball which was so powerful so he wanted to try something with it. Yuji with his proud wolf and slimes went to the blue dragon to fight it. Yuji used the Hellfire of Demise but it didn't affect the blue dragon. He noticed that the dragon absorbed the magical energy of the forest that made it grow even bigger. Yuji decided to use the dagger given to him and approach the dragon. When he hit him in the eye he used the Hellfire of Demise. Yuji thought he had defeated it but it suddenly attacked him. He made a shield and protect himself from the dragon's attack. When he saw the divine strike, he used it on the dragon. This gave him a chance to attack the blue dragon with a combination of dagger and Hellfire of Demise. Rayard visited Yuji the next morning to inform him of the defeat of the blue dragon, which according to Stale was the work of a human. He also told him that he could ask the guild for help because they also knew that he was the one who killed the blue dragon. After that, he told Tina and Lisa that he will be leaving Kilia and asked the two of them to recommend a town for his next destination. Lisa recommended Ricardo's town and Tina agreed too. Yuji left immediately, and while on the way, Dryad suddenly spoke to him. He informed him of the two types of mushrooms that grew on the spot where they fought the blue dragon. According to Dryad, she can turn the red mushroom into sage potions and the blue mushroom into mana restoratives. After the slimes gathered the mushrooms, Dryad began making mana restoratives. But she was surprised that the result was red instead of blue. They thought it might be because of the quality of the water they used, so they decided to create distilled water. Due to the color of the magic stone potion, Dryad remembered the day when Yuji helped him. After completing the distilled water, they also succeeded in perfecting the potion. After making the potions, Dryad returned to the Drya forest. Yuji and his companions continued the journey. They passed through a forest filled with fog, and the proud wolf and slime smelled a human nearby. In the distance they reached a village where everyone was smiling at them. An old man talked to him and took him to his house. He was asked what he was doing in the village. Yuji replied that he got lost because of the fog and that he was supposed to be heading to Ricardo's town. Before Yuji left, he asked the name of the village, and according to the old man, their village was called Messiah. While walking, Yuji felt that there was something strange in that village. When they arrived at Ricardo, it was snowing. They went to a restaurant, but it was closed. According to the woman, they lack firewoods and they only use the woods in the fireplace to keep them warm. Because of this, Yuji decided to get firewood from the forest and asked the slimes to dry them until it could be used. After he brought the firewoods to the restaurant, they cooked him dinner. After eating, Yuji went to the guild to join the firewood mission. There he met Wodka, who was leading this mission. Yuji asked Wodka about the nearby Messiah village. According to Wodka, no one has lived in this village for a long time. In that case, Yuji wondered about what he saw in the village. Yuji started work, and others were surprised that he was able to chop the wood so quickly. When they brought the firewood to the guild, the receptionist told them about the legend of the slimes that she heard from the church. Yuji remembered the priest, Stale, and he wanted to ask him about it if they meet again. He continued the work until he completed gathering woods for the 3 days' needs of the entire town. As Yuji eats in the diner, he also learned that monsters are attacking the Rashia herb crops. Because of this, Yuji sent the slimes as well as the proud wolf to the Rashia herb garden. While they were killing the monsters there, they saw a crystal ball. Yuji showed it to Dryad, but she didn't know what it was either. When Yuji touched it, it changed color, for it absorbed his magic. Yuji thought that it was the same as a magic stone. Then Dryad realized that this thing was the reason why the magical energy in the area was low, because it absorbed the energy. Dryad also told Yuji that the reason why the area is covered in snow was because of the same reason. Dryad knew that someone else did it because she felt a different power that was not from Yuji. Yuji dispelled the thing and ordered the slimes to find the rest of it. They found 108 magic stone ores scattered all over the place. Yuji noticed that these things were scattered in a circle, so he thought that they might see something in the middle of it. Yuji decides to destroy the forest because he knew that it's not normal anymore. Using the Hellfire of Demise, he destroyed the middle of the forest. And when they approached the center, they were surprised to see a door on it. They opened the door, and along with the slimes, Yuji entered it. When they got inside, they saw the magic stones. Suddenly, 2 worried men came and they mentioned the name Javier. Yuji thought that the man might be the mastermind. He made the slimes follow the men and he returned to the top. While he was following the path of the slimes from above, they reached the Messiah's village. He heard what they were talking about with Javier, who was the old man he talked to earlier. Javier was with the smiling people, and they were all followers of the Blue Moon of Salvation. Javier ordered the others to pick up the magic stones that scattered around the area. Yuji ordered the slimes to go around the village. They ended up in a room with many books and documents. Yuji asked the slimes to get them all. The slimes also went to the room where there are a lot of treasures and had Yuji asked the slimes to get those too. Javier found out about it as well as the loss of the books. They also could no longer talk to those assigned in finding the magic stones. While they were talking about the possibility that someone was trying to attack them, Yuji found out about the cleansing flame. According to Javier, it will explode if they all die. It is said that in order to defeat their attacker, they decided to commit suicide. Yuji felt an earthquake and he gathered the slimes to escape. When the slimes left the village, Yuji used 3 types of barriers to stop the cleansing flame. With the strong power of the cleansing flame, other barriers got broken. But before the last barrier was broken, Yuji used the total isolation array and succeeded in stopping it. After that, Yuji returned to Ricardo. The snow gradually melted. The next day, Yuji was invited to celebrate the end of winter. When he returned to his room, he read the documents that they had obtained from the village of the Messiah. One of these contains the names of people that the Blue Moon of Salvation is looking for. His name is also on it, and the Blue Moon of Salvation assassins are currently searching and killing those people on the list. Because of what Yuji discovered regarding the Blue Moon of Salvation, he decided to leave Ricardo. He asked the receptionist which town he could go to next. The receptionist recommended the town of Boginia because of the monster armor, and it is suitable for someone like Yuji who is a tamer. She also told him to visit the Gagel's workshop, which is owned by a master craftsman. As Yuji continued his journey, 2 assassins started to search for him. They saw him walking in the forest. Yuji knew that someone is watching him. The assassins continued in observing his moves, and the female assassin planned a way to know Yuji's abilities and if Yuji could be a threat to them. They followed him until Yuji reached the town of Boginia. Yuji went straight to Gagel's shop, and from there, he pretended to be poor with nothing special about him. The 2 assassins didn't know that Yuji was also watching them with the slime. Yuji got a request from the guild, and these assassins thought that this was an opportunity for them to see if Yuji was a threat to the Blue Moon of Salvation. Yuji faced the monsters in a normal way that was expected from a tamer. Yuji ordered the Proud Wolf to fight the monsters, and it defeated the monsters so quickly, so the assassins thought that Yuji was a strong tamer. Because of this, Yuji secretly healed the monsters over and over until they became stronger. This time, the Proud Wolf had a hard time before it could finally defeat the monsters. The assassins changed their minds because of what they witnessed. Yuji was suddenly attacked by a monster, causing Yuji to take out his sword. The assassins were surprised by what Yuji did, but in the end they still considered him as an ordinary tamer. They conclude that he was not a threat, and then they left to tell their leader. As the assassins were leaving, Yuji overheard that the 2 discussed about the priest that they planned to kill. When the assassins talked to their leader, they found out about the destruction of the Messiah's village, and the leader wanted them to investigate it. The assassins also mentioned the name of the priest that they were going to kill next, and it turned out to be Stale. Because of what Yuji heard, he decided to attack the assassins before they could carry out their plan. They immediately froze from the attack, and Yuji wondered why they were also targeting a priest. The next day he went back to Gagel's shop to buy armor for the slimes. As Gagel stared at the slimes, he told his salesman that this was their strongest customer. But according to Gagel, they don't have armor available for the level of slimes. He said he needed to make armor that suit for the slimes, but he had one problem, and he looked at the mountain near the town. For a better class of armor he needed a lesser fire dragon jewel, which can only be obtained by defeating the lesser fire dragon. But there was also a better class, and it is the blue lesser fire dragon jewel. The problem was that it's not easy to find, and the dragon is also more difficult to defeat. Yuji immediately went to the guild to get all the requests for hunting the lesser fire dragon. He learned from the receptionist that this dragon was immune to any magic. But she said that it can be defeated by water, and before reaching the volcano Yuji has to pass through a river with a piranha monster. Yuji also took this request, and when they arrived at the river they saw the red slimes. He immediately tamed it. The red slime told him that the volcano was safe today. They start looking for the piranha in the river, but the slimes had trouble searching it from above. Yuji made a slime net and let them dive into the river. A few minutes later, the piranha appeared and attacked the slimes. They immediately caught it and used ranged frost, but it still got away, so Yuji used the fireball to defeat it. They continued to the mountain where the dragons lived. When Yuji got close and a dragon noticed him, he immediately used the water cannon. The dragon was defeated and the jewel came out of it. All the dragons they saw were quickly defeated with the water cannon. The other slime saw a blue lesser fire dragon, and Yuji hurriedly went to it. He ordered his 10 slimes to surround the dragon and attacked it with a water cannon. But it wasn't enough, even his range frost attack. He used the range frost again and made it 10 times stronger before the attack. After the ice melted from the attack, The dragon was defeated and the jewel was removed from it. They continued killing other dragons until sunset. The receptionist was surprised that Yuji killed 202 dragons, including a piranha. The next day, he went to Gagel's shop to give the jewels. Gagel was surprised because he received 2 blue jewels and many normal jewels. They immediately started making the armor, and when all were finished, they tried them on the slimes and to the proud wolf. These made the proud wolf and the slime moved faster. The durability of the armors were also tested if these were equipped with a magic boost. Those did not fail him. Even the range frost got even stronger. After they returned to the shop, Yuji found out that the armor would become much stronger if the jewel of the fire dragon will be used. According to Gagel, no one has ever defeated this dragon. While Yuji was resting, the slimes informed him that the dragons gone wild in the mountains. He noticed that it was the same as the monsters that attacked Fasten. He also remembered the assassin's conversation regarding a plan. The volcano erupted and the fire dragon appeared at the same time. The proud wolf and the slimes saw 2 men going up the mountain carrying barrels. Based on the conversation between the two, Yuji found out that their target was the fire dragon. Yuji tried to capture the 2 but they escaped. These men managed to hit the slime, and while they were busy with it, Yuji released a magical net that captured the men. The 2 couldn't escape anymore, so they killed themselves. Yuji found out that they were also members of the Blue Moon of Salvation. The slimes examined the barrels and Dryad also showed up to confirm that the barrels contained a cursed water to be used on the fire dragon. Yuji used the dispel curse to turn it back into normal water. The fire dragon began to move and headed towards the town. When it crossed the first river, Yuji prepared the proud wolf and slimes for an attack. He used the range frost, but it was easily destroyed by the fire dragon. The dragon continued walking and reached the second river. Even though it was hurt by the water from the river, it did not stop from crossing. So Yuji had prepared a lot of water that was collected in the barrier. With this big amount of water, he was able to drown the dragon. But when the water level dropped, the dragon woke up and attacked the proud wolf with the slimes. It's a good thing that Yuji was able to immediately create a barrier to block the dragon's attack. The dragon prepared to attack the town with a fireball. Yuji used the slime with an armor to cover the dragon's fireball with his permafrost curse attack. With the strong power of the permafrost curse, it defeated the fireball and hit the dragon. The dragon froze and broke into pieces. Yuji succeeded in getting its jewel, but in the distance he saw something he could not identify. After that, he returned to Gagel's shop to deliver the jewel of the fire dragon. Then he also went to the guild to ask about the town of Ordarian. According to the receptionist, this town was different. Apart from not being good for adventurers, this town doesn't want to be disturbed by others. Yuji also asked about the thing they saw after defeating the fire dragon. According to the receptionist, it is an artificial rain machine of the guilds. Since the name of the guild that owned it was removed, they couldn't tell which guild it belonged to. Yuji remembered that the 2 men he encountered mentioned about the person from Ordarian. The next day Yuji got the armor made from the jewel of the fire dragon and left the town of Boginia. When Yuji arrived in Ordarian's town, he immediately went to the guild. He noticed the adventurers were glaring at him. After Yuji left, the 2 men talked and they immediately recognized Yuji, who was on their list but was ignored by their headquarters because of the report from the 2 assassins. They also discussed about the fire dragon and they mentioned the name of their master, Walter. While Yuji was listening to the conversation between these 2, Stale and Johann approached him. He was taken by them to the church. When he mentioned to Stale that the Blue Moon of Salvation knew him, Stale told Yuji about his past with Walter. Long ago, Stale and his companions formed a group called the Church of Blue Moon. Over time, their followers increased and one of them was Walter. Because of Walter's strong faith, Head easily gained the people's trust and eventually became Stale's trusted ally. But Walter was blinded by his high ambitions and he no longer wanted Stale's leadership. One day, by the guidance of the One above, he was ordered to demolish the Church of Blue Moon. But because he didn't want to lose his colleagues, he didn't follow the order. A few days later, their church was attacked by a group of men. He was able to escape successfully with the help of his colleagues, but they lost their lives. He realized that this was the reason why their god wanted to destroy the Church of Blue Moon. He also found out that the attack happened to oust him from his leadership and that Walter was the mastermind. Then the Blue Moon of Salvation cult was formed and all of their followers changed their beliefs because of Walter. A few hours ago he received a word from above about the chaos that was going to happen and that Walter would lead it. He also believes that Yuji was sent to oppose and stop Walter's plans. Walter was informed by his follower of the meeting between Stale and Yuji, who they believed to be the emissary. Johann asked Stale why he didn't tell everything to Yuji. Stale said it was for Yuji's protection. While Yuji rested, he remembered what the receptionist mentioned in a guild that Yuji forgot to ask Stale. The next day Yuji went to the church to ask Stale about what the receptionist mentioned. But Stale left the town with Johann. Yuji asks the slimes if they notice Stale. The two slimes saw them and Yuji made them follow Stale and Johann. Yuji decided to follow them too. Stale came to a large tree in the forest and entered it. They encountered Walter's followers there. A few minutes later Yuji was also outside the large tree. He removed the barrier and entered too. He saw people lying on the ground in front of them. While Stale and Johann reached the room where Walter and his followers were waiting for them. Stale fought them and defeated them all. Suddenly he was tied up and electrocuted, causing him to lose consciousness. It was Johann who did this. When Stale woke up, he found out that Johann was also a member of the Blue Moon of Salvation. Walter used his power on his defeated followers and all stood up prepared to attack. Yuji suddenly came, who had just finished defeated the monsters he encountered. After he freed Stale, they were attacked by monsters. While they were fighting the monsters, Walter and Johann returned to room. Walter made himself more powerful than Yuji and his companions entered the room. Yuji attacked the monsters Walter with a fireball. Walter rampaged and made his attacks too. Because of Walter's speed, Yuji used a lot of slimes to increase his fireball. But it still didn't work, so Yuji used the armor of slime and Proud Wolf. Walter could no longer keep up with their speed and he was hit by an attack from the slime. This caused great damage to Walter's body, but he used the bodies of other monsters to heal himself. He used the same technique to regenerate fast after being hit from Yuji's attacks. Until Yuji used the Dispel Curse on Walter, so the regeneration technique won't work. Walter attacked and repeatedly punched Yuji's barrier and almost break it. At the signal of the slime, Yuji used the magical nets so Walter could not move. He used the Hellfire of Decimation and defeated Walter. But Stale was surprised of Walter's last words before its death. A few seconds later, Walter's seat gradually absorbed all the dragon's grace. Then a man appeared and introduced himself as a sage. It used the Hellfire of Demise to destroy the whole place. Yuji upgraded the powers of slimes and the Proud Wolf, then they attacked the enemy with a fireball. But the sage retaliated with a Hellfire of Decimation. So Yuji dispersed the slimes and used the fireball barrage. They exchanged attacks. Yuji was wondering why the enemy was able to repeatedly use Hellfire of Decimation and Hellfire of Demise. Then he thought that maybe its mana had no limit. Yuji attacked again using the Range Frost ultimate, but the enemy created a barrier and broke the attack. Yuji attacked again with a fireball that was 10 times stronger, but enemy could still block it. The enemy used Hellfire of Decimation that was 10 times stronger and Yuji made the same attack. Yuji defeated its Hellfire but could not even scratch the enemy. The enemy simultaneously activated the artificial rain machines, which are located in different places that contain the dragon's grace, causing the rain to pour and the monsters gone wild. The monsters started to attack the town of Fasten, so Yuji used his slimes to help and fight the monsters. Yuji and the enemy exchanged a Hellfire of Decimation attacks. The slimes had also noticed the monsters approaching the town of Kilia. While using the Hellfire of Decimation on the enemy, Yuji managed to attack the monsters near Kilia. All the town's men were ready for the coming monsters. Yuji remembered his past life, that he never asked help from others, and realizes that cooperation is not a bad thing either. Because of this, Yuji strengthened all the adventurers in different towns to fight against the monsters. Yuji lost his mana 10 minutes ago, so he drank his mana restoratives. He approached the enemy and they attacked each other using Hellfire of Decimation. When he saw that he could use the Divine Strike within 45 seconds, he grabbed the chance and used it on the enemy. The attack had its effect on the enemy, so he used it repeatedly until the enemy weakened. While the enemy was preparing to attack, Yuji used the knife of Kethis and equipped it with a divine strike. After the enemy attacked, Yuji created barrier that is 6 times stronger to lock them both in it. Before the barrier got broken, he used the total isolation array, which was stronger because of the slime's armor. Yuji immediately attacked. He stabbed him using the dagger with the power of divine strike. The enemy couldn't avoid it because of Yuji's speed. The enemy was defeated and the cloud with dragon's grace disappeared. Yuji fell to the ground due to weakness after the fight. I hope you liked it. Please remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed the story of Yuji.